Hello and welcome to the second display video. I'm Andrew and today we're looking at my favorite console, the original NES, Nintendo's very first North American released console. A lot of people will probably already know quite a bit about it, but there's still some things I think I'd like to share that probably aren't super common knowledge. First, I guess we'll just go over this. Of course, back then it was standard for consoles to have 2 controller ports instead of 4 like they do today. Well, I suppose everything's wireless today, so it's not so much ports anymore, but things usually support about 4 controllers. On the side, you have red and yellow audio and video ports. On the back, you have your power, AV, and channel switcher. And on the bottom, you have the completely unused expansion port, where expansion things that Nintendo would have developed could have been attached to the NES, but unfortunately, it never went used. Of course, the NES Controller, something that, of course, if you know about the NES, you know about this. Very basic compared to the things you have today. No shoulder buttons, nothing like that, just D-pad, A-B buttons, and start and select. Personally, my favorite controller. Keep it simple and keep it awesome. Something else? You've got your standard NES carts. So Super Mario Bros. 3. Something some people might not know is about the stickers on the back. You see Mario 3 has a gray sticker, but games like Zelda, you turn it around, has a gold sticker. What those gold stickers indicate is that the game has a battery in it and it's able to save. So if you ever see a game and you're wondering if it's going to have to use like passwords or if you're actually just going to be able to save and pick up where you left off, you can actually use that sticker as sort of a guide. So gold means it saves, you can just pick up from anywhere, well I guess wherever the save point is. Another thing to point out is that, here we go, the original NES box, the control deck. And if we turn it around, we see it originally came with 2 controllers and the console itself, of course. So, yeah, unlike today when they give you 1 controller and they make you buy the rest for like 60 bucks, Nintendo was actually nice enough to give you 2. Slight variation of that is this. Original control deck comes packaged with Super Mario Brothers. And if we turn it around, we of course see them playing Super Mario Brothers, and they're really happy, and just it's really interesting how the cords that they're using clearly aren't even attached to the NES, so the controllers, no idea how that's supposed to work. So that's really neat. But of course, out of those 2 things, the most common set of all back in the day was the action set. And let's see, can I fit it on the screen? Yeah, it pretty much fits. The action set that came with Mario Duck Hunt 2 controllers and the NES Zapper, one of the most well-known peripherals for the NES, of course. So we turn around, and all of these boxes are full, so that's why they're not always the easiest to move. But yeah, you have that, you have the Zapper, Mario Duck Hunt, like everything like I just said. So this was sort of like the set to have back in the day, just like in the first display video. Or, no, sorry, during my Sonic 3 playthrough, or of the Hydro City Zone. Like I said, how everyone had the Sonic 2 Genesis bundle. Well, this was the bundle everyone had for NES, and that's why Mario and Duck Hunt's pretty much the easiest game to find for it. If you walk into a store with used games and used NES games, you're probably pretty likely to find a Super Mario and Duck Hunt. So yeah, one more time. That's what that one looked like. So let's put that on the table way over here. Awesome. But, similarly, we have another variation of the action set, this time with the orange Zapper. I guess people complained and thought that the gray one, you know, looks really realistic when you're walking down the street with it, and people were afraid they were going to get shot, so they turned it to orange. So I guess just like how a lot of toy guns at the time, they had to have that orange tip at the end so that it indicated it was fake, so I guess people didn't start freaking out in the street or something like that. I don't know, it all sounds stupid to me, but that's how that works. Anyway, so other variations of the thing of the NES you could get. Here's one you don't see too often, one of the hardest to find for sure, is, it's heavy as heck, the NES Deluxe Set. That came included with R.O.B, the Zapper, and Duck Hunt, and Gyromite. So, if we turn this one around, we can see everything that's in there. We can see we have R.O.B there with the Gyromite setup, and Duck Hunt, Gyromite, and we can see people playing it on the TV there. And what's neat about the NES boxes is the sides are usually pretty fun to look at too. Got a whole bunch of shows other games and things like that that were out at the time that you could also get. So yeah, this was one of the original sets to come out. for the NES actually. The next set that we're going to look at is the Power Set. Comes included with the Power Pad, Orange Zapper, NES, 2 controllers, and a packed-in game that includes Mario, Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet, which is compatible with the Power Pad. The neatest thing I like about this box isn't actually anything about the box itself, but it's the price sticker on the top from Zellers that says that this set sold for $320 at some point. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a date, but it's still neat to see what you would have paid for something like this back then. And don't forget about there's inflation and all those fun things like that. Not exactly sure what that equals today, but we're going to put that box on the table over here so that I can lift up some other things as well. Put that game there. And next we're looking at the Challenge Set. It's pretty much just like the first 2 NESs I showed, the ones that came with Nothing and Super Mario Brothers. This one just comes with Super Mario Brothers 3. And if we turn it around, we'll just see that there are pictures of Super Mario Brothers 3, and then stuff like that. On the side, more previews of a whole bunch of different funky controllers, one of which is the NES Satellite, which actually brings me to my next point about the NES Sports Set. It's actually one of the only sets I don't have, despite all the ones that I do. And what the Sports Set had was it came with the package game Super Spike V-Ball and World Cup Soccer. And it also came packaged with the NES Satellite, which allowed you to have up to 4 people playing at the same time. And it sort of made your controllers wireless, because you had all the way over here. You had this piece, which plugged into your NES, and then this big base thing here. You could place that anywhere and then plug your controllers into it. So even though your controllers still had the wires, they weren't actually plugged into the NES. So at least if someone tripped over them, it wasn't going to throw your NES halfway across the room. But yeah, I think that's just about all we're going to look at for the NES. One thing that's always great about the NES is that unlike some consoles at the time, the cord was nice and long. It's pretty awesome. Speaking of the controller, another controller that was available at the time was the dog bone controller, and the only way to get this was if you bought the second model of the NES. Some people look at this and think it's one of those aftermarket things like the FC Twin and things like that, that sort of made by some random company later. But no, what this actually is this is a remade NES that came out sometime around after the Super Nintendo came out, and it was sort of Nintendo's last grab at trying to get people's money, I guess. Sort of like the way that the Wii is going now with the ones without the GameCube compatibility. Yeah, so that's what this is. This is, as you can see, no attempt to have an expansion port on the bottom, and there's no red-yellow slots for the audio-video cable. So the only thing you have is RF, but the controller is always something that's been really neat. Definitely a lot different than the original one, and definitely more shaped like an NES controller. One thing I've never liked about it, though, is the way that the B and A buttons slant up. I've never understood how that's supposed to be comfortable, to hold your hand like that. Because usually, when you're holding a controller, your hand tends to go down, so I'm not sure what's with the whole upward thing. But luckily Nintendo realized this, and in games like Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, they use the Y and B buttons instead of the B and A buttons for run and jump. But anyway, I'm rambling on now. But yeah, like I was saying, the nice long controller cord, because when you look at something like the Famicom, which was the, or Family Computer, which was the Japanese version of the NES, their version of it, the controller isn't super long, and it also doesn't come unplugged. It's stuck in there for good. Unless you open it up, then it's possible to switch out. But not everyone wants to do that. So yeah, controller isn't exactly that long, and you have to remember that this is the front of the console here, and there's a good chance that you're going to be playing with it like this. So yeah, it doesn't really reach that far, which is definitely one of my pet peeves about the Famicom. And unfortunately, a lot of Japanese consoles have that same problem. Like if you compare a Super Famicom controller to a Super Nintendo controller, you have the same problem. But yeah, but anyway, I think that things like that are for another week, because next week I'm going to touch on the Famicom and a lot more of its differences between the NES and, of course, its Japanese brother. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that provided some insight on what it was like when the NES first came out and what different bundles were available at the time. Because that's not too, you don't see too many insightful things like that, saying like the Deluxe Set and showing all the different options that people had. And then, of course, the NES 2, which a lot of people don't even know ever actually existed. Retailed for $50 right there near the end. So yeah, Thank you very much for watching. And next time we're talking about, if I can ever pick it up, with one controller and the other controller, we are talking about the Famicom. So thank you, and I'll see you then.